So today we're continuing with the Q&A session. We got a lot of questions through in the last few weeks. But I'm going to do a pivot. What we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about AI in the education space, specifically today. So I've extracted the best questions. I've got 8 of them here. Let's dive into it. First question. Where can AI strip out the most admin costs for training providers? Okay, good question. I constantly think about that. We have 2 education brands in the companies that I own, working on 2 verticals, right? White collar professional, blue collar, so tradies, construction, that style of business. Both 2 different businesses, even though they're training businesses, but they're working in the same market, right? So my thing would be, can AI reduce costs for a business? Maybe we just pivot to that overall. Absolutely, you can do that. And not just a little, but I think a lot, right? But it requires strategy. I'm a big fan of iterations. So I like to map things out in a document. So in a training business or any business for that fact, there's a workflow, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, a range of things happen to deliver a result for a client or a customer. So if you put that on paper, look, you have to document these things. My advice to anybody looking to incorporate an AI stack into their company, into their business, you have to have documentation. Like, it's just so hard to do it without it. Otherwise, you're chasing unicorns, you're getting distracted, and you're reacting to everything, right? So I think you need to be really, really considered. If you want to reduce costs, you need to be serious about it. How do you apply it to the P&L and the balance sheet? Right? If you're building innovation, there's potentially tax benefits for that. So you've got to slow it down and really think carefully about the execution process. And as you know, execution is my thing, strategy and execution. Those are the 2 things that help you win, right? Chasing unicorns does not do that. It makes the P&L go down, in fact. So if you're a training business, you're looking to apply an AI stack inside the company, document the workflow. When you do that, you'll see 24, 25, I think we have about maybe 25 points of key work elements in our operational workflow for a client or a customer, right? Whether it's commercial or it's a B2C customer. There's all these things we have to do sequentially to get the customer to the result we need to get them to. Once you do that, you'll have a clear indication of where you can apply AI technology to. And by the way, you normally do it at the start. So the easiest entry point for me is a client engaging with the business. You can lower costs with that because you can automate voicemail messages, personalized tailored videos. It can answer phones for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the AI agent doesn't take holidays, get sick, complain, or go to Bali at Christmas. Bali, I don't know, like Japan, they can go anywhere. So it's sometimes when you think about saving costs, if you thought about increasing efficiencies and increasing conversion rates and keeping costs the same and divesting, revenue goes up. So sometimes it's not about saving costs. But can it do that? Absolutely it can. Where can you do it? You have to create a workflow document and then pick out where you think you can apply it based on your knowledge and based on the risk, right? I think risk is super critical to understand for all business operators. There's high formats of risk and there's low risk. I always say, run fast and break things, like that was Zuck's thing, right? I think you can do it when the risk is 1 to 2. I think above that, you need to be considered, and when you get to 4 and 5, you need to go slow. So run fast and break things is fine, but I think there's 3 stages to it, so just be considerate about that. But the workflow will definitely help you contextualize that, and you'll be able to think about it. Bring your team in and talk to them about it, bring in consultants, whatever you need to do. But it's not a high costly exercise to do it. You can do it inside the business, you just need a couple of smart young nerds, right? and they can probably do it for you. So I hope that helps. Number 2, can AI generated video lessons replace traditional textbooks and manuals? Yeah, there's a paradigm shift there, I think, in terms of that particular category of video and traditional textbooks and manuals. Like right now, I think, so we're in Australia, we're sitting filming this in Brisbane, actually, in Queensland state. And look, my experience nationally across the country and in other countries, some are better than others, right? But textbooks and manuals and lectures are still really quite an old school application for things like universities, right? They are the same for primary schools and high schools. If you look at the vocational sector, it's still the same as well. But I think the vocational sector is probably the best place to start, right? Because the other two models are really cemented a lot of history and a lot of investment, right? There's a lot of investment in universities from state and federal governments. They do fundraising. There's a lot of lobbying in that space as well. And they carry a lot of assets. So what that means is they have lots of land and lots of buildings to maintain, and they employ lots of people, right? Will universities pivot and go from a 3-year degree to a 2-year degree to a 1-year degree? Yes, they will. That's happening now. There's universities in America that are making that change now in their business modeling, right? But so let's pull it back. So can video lessons, AI-generated video lessons specifically replace traditional textbooks and manuals? My take is yeah, absolutely. Why not? If you look at AI-generated video, like I use Sora, right? And I have for a while. It's getting better every day. The technology is getting better. The hardware is getting better. The speed and the efficiency is getting better, and the accuracy is getting better. The production is absolutely incredible, right? So if you were to think about this, even if we went back to question one, like how do you save costs? This is huge, right? So we shoot a lot of video content. Our training materials have video content. Our inductions have video content for our internal staff. Now, just imagine what it takes to record that video content. So we shot some video content on site, so you have to get the cameraman, all the hardware. You have to throw it in a vehicle. You have to drive to a site, unpack it, set it up, run a production check, and then start filming. Do all the filming, break it down, put it back in the road case, get it in the vehicle, drive back to the office, unpack it all, plug it all in, set it up, and then start the editing process. So you're looking at about 5 to 10 days to be able to do that. So what if there was a tool like Sora that could give you high quality video edited the way that you needed in not 10 days, but in 60 minutes? So that answers your own question. Now, the thing is, it's the scarcity and the psychology of a market on how they're going to perceive that and how long it's going to take. When you deploy a new product into a market to change it, here's a story. And I just watched the BlackBerry video again, right? If you haven't seen that movie, you should watch it because there's some super interesting lessons in it. The lesson I'll pivot to is, I don't know if you're old enough to remember. If you're young, you probably don't even know what a BlackBerry is. But if you're around long enough to know, you'll know that I had a BlackBerry, right? And it was the QWERTY keyboard that really got me on it. I could do emails, right? So they were sending packets of data so you could send emails to people. No other phone or no other device could do that in the market at the time. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is the best thing ever. This is never going to change. I am never going to stop using my BlackBerry. And then a few years later, the introduction of new data planning, new data management, and a new device called an iPhone, right? Motorola released a phone, iPhone released a phone, Nokia was a player in that market at the time. So what happened is, everyone should have probably made a pivot because it was probably cheaper to use those devices. They were super great, they were more efficient, they were faster, they could do more things, right? Plus they could also send email. So I held on to that BlackBerry for quite a while actually before I did the move. Why? Because I had to just get used to it. Human beings have to get used to certain things. Sometimes it just takes time. And that's really conducive to everything in terms of battery operated vehicles, PCs and computers, technology especially. And in the health sector, I noticed that it takes so long to deliver AI technologies to the health sector. Why? Because they're so trenched in using old, outdated draconian models and systems and legacy systems, it just takes a long time. So I always think the longer the market has been operating, the longer it takes for technology to ensue and change it, right? That's why I said in the vet sector, it's probably easier to do because it's not trenched in historical investment like universities and high schools, right, and colleges. It's more nimble. There's less players in that market. So I think it's the perfect opportunity for people in that sector to be able to leverage the appropriate AI stack, which we're going through now and we're building it, and we have been focused on it since November 2022 when ChatGPT released that first version. So will it be credible and will it replace traditional textbooks and manuals? Yeah, absolutely it will. There'll be some legislative requirements that will need to be changed, so government will have to get up to speed. I think they're going to do that pretty quickly, I'll be honest with you. I've spoken to them. And I think they're going to move fast because I just think it's the right sector in which you could do it in the education space. Okay, number 3, how can an AI stack actively lift workforce performance and engagement and not just monitor it? So the monitoring part is the reporting part, which I think is pretty awesome. I think you can do a lot of automated reporting with an AI stack. But will it lift workforce performance? Yeah, it will, because it's going to replace some of your workforce. I actually just read an article from Peter Diamandis last night talking about the fear around AI technologies and exponential technologies and how that's going to impact jobs for humans. In actual fact, the research they just concluded, I can't remember what university it was done. I think it might have been done by Columbia, but what they've noticed in that research, I think they surveyed quite a few thousand people and businesses. It's what it's done is actually increased the job rate, not decreased it. Well, how does that work, Lawrence? Well, it's obvious, right? Because we're in a startup phase, we're in a research phase. We need to employ people for companies to figure it out. So everything sort of goes up and to the right. It doesn't go left and down. And I think that's going to be consistent. And I think there'll be a time on that time horizon where the business will create enough revenue through efficiency that it'll employ more people to scale and to grow. So this is a tool for scalability and it's a tool for growth. Yes, people look at it from a scarcity mindset. I get that, it's going to take everyone's jobs. Logically, if you break it down, use first principles, you use mathematics, it actually increases job flow, it doesn't decrease it. Because what people miss is the point that the efficiency, the speed, the accuracy, and the breadth of what you can do using an AI stack will increase revenue. What are you going to spend that revenue on? You're going to grow your business. What does that mean? You're going to employ more people. What will those people do? There'll be project teams and leadership teams. Humans are still required, right? But there's really low efficiency ratios for human beings doing tasks that they shouldn't do, right? They should be doing more important tasks. So you should use an AI stack to handle those less important tasks and make them more efficient, and everything goes up and to the right. That's what I think. And that's been my experience. And actually, that's what the data and the research is stating. So if you're a bit of a naysayer and you're a little bit negative around that, you might want to look at the research, because that might just be an opinion, probably one coming from the Dems. I'm sorry. Anyway. Okay. So what metrics should we watch to keep cloud and AI costs in check as we scale? Well, back to the last thing, you probably won't need to. Let the P&L be the P&L, let the balance sheet be the balance sheet, right? Let the forecast be the forecast. From what I can see in what we're doing, and we're building things now, we see a level of efficiency that far exceeds the cost, right? So what that means is the level of efficiency creates revenue, it generates income, money, right? So it far outweighs anything else. So that's what I see. So I just ran a process. I did it again this morning. It's a human process that we have in the company now. That process takes about 1.5 hours for the human to deploy and complete the result of that process. The AI is conducting it in less than 5 minutes. So that's 25x or whatever it is. I just made that up and counted out, but that's a lot. That is incredibly huge. Now, think about it. If you break it down, the human gets paid a salary, superannuation, taxes, risks, all that sort of stuff, right? If you break that component down into an hourly rate and you multiply it by the segments in terms of minutes, and then you looked at the efficiency ratio, that it's going to be enormous. So you don't even need to worry about the cost, because the cost of tokens will go down. As soon as they get the power thing under control, they get the development thing under control, they get the server farms under control, They can power them for a reasonable cost. The GPUs are getting better. The technology is getting better. Like, Jensen's in the Middle East at the moment talking about that exactly, setting up some of those server farms in that region in the UAE, is that, token costs will go down. And the cost of it at the moment is actually next to nothing. Like, there's platforms you can use that don't cost a cent, right? And they're great. And they can still 10x the efficiency of the human being. So why would you not do that? So I wouldn't worry about the costs to keep those in check. I would run at the technology, and the balance sheet will tell you where things will sit, but don't let that prohibit you from trying, because I think that's what people do. I would just run at it because from my experience, and we've been working with it for, like I said, since 2022, we're not noticing a cost increase at all. In fact, we're noticing an efficiency increase and a cost decrease, right? But I don't manage it that closely because I just know I don't need to. I hope that helps. What proof will regulators or accrediting bodies need before they trust AI-based assessments? We don't know yet. Are they? So I'm going to talk about the vet sector, right? So we sit in the middle between colleges and high school. We don't know yet. They're trying to get up to speed on that. And they are. They're definitely talking about it and releasing some correspondence around it. But they don't know how to manage it yet and how to deploy that. What we know about government bureaucracy is that it takes time, right? It's cemented in old processes, 3-hour meetings, and too many people. So you've got time. I don't even worry about that. I think, we work in a regulated market. We have a license to do so, but I don't even worry about it. Why would you? Like, if they don't know what they're doing, why would you worry about it? Don't worry about shit that hasn't happened yet. Just run at it and you'll figure it out as you go. So that's the entrepreneurial part of that, right? The compliance and regulation part of that, you don't need to worry about either because there isn't any. So build it and figure it out later. Otherwise, you're going to stop yourself from growing your business. I truly believe that. So we're running quite aggressively at it. And regulation, will it come? Absolutely. When will it be? Probably in a few years. Will it matter? Absolutely not. Because we've already done it. All we have to do is change a few things and pivot, right? Now, that said, it's my mindset or my application to get government involved in it, right? We want to get our federal regulator involved in the innovation and the AI stack that we're currently building. We're going to go to market in July for our first fundraise. And I want government to be involved in that process in terms of what we're innovating, what we're building. I think that's the right thing to do. I think it'll be good for everyone in the sector. And if we can help the sector, I think, we'll be better off as a company for it, as opposed to not doing that. So I say transparency and honesty all the way, especially when it comes to innovation. Like, that's why, like Musk, right? All his IP, he releases it publicly. Like, that's just great. Like, that's an incredible way to look at things. I think AI technology, if we're building it, we should be collaborating on it, especially with those who are in the regulation component of that. Okay, cool. Next, what benefits do corporates gain from adopting an AI stack learning model? Well, all of the above and what I just spoke about. But if I think about the principles of corporates, right, big organizations, their issue and their challenge is, the compliance and the bureaucracy in a large organization with many stacks of management and people, right? I like Larry Page and Sergey Brin's application. Run it as an X project. Run it as an X project. Put it on the outskirts of the business. Don't tell the accountant about it. Make up some bullshitty reason why you're spending all that money and push it on the outside of the company, right on the edge that no one can see it. And you could build it there, right? And make a whole bunch of mistakes and call it whatever project, right? I just call them X projects. Then you can run fast and break things, and you sort of don't damage the P&L, so the accountant's not really going to care about it. Like, he's not going to challenge you on it. That's what I would do. I've done that before. I still do that, and we're doing a little bit of that now. So that would be the take on it. But the benefits for corporates is abundant, right? It's just abundant. Like, I just sent an email to our sales manager who is speaking to a large client. I think I think they've got 50 people or so that they need some support with in terms of workforce development, right? So we do a lot of workforce development, helping people strategize around attraction, retention, efficiencies, productivities, and de-risking the company, right? So all of those things can happen with a adequate AI stack deployed in specific stages. So for corporates, there's probably more benefit for corporates just because the costs are so high, right? They just are. Like if you can get efficiencies, if you can decrease OpEx, right, that's great for a large corporate because those numbers are really, really big. They're huge. For an SME like us, they're not as big. They're still quite chunky, but they're not as big. So small 1% efficiencies in a large corporate carry a lot of weight. You know what I mean? So some of those large corporates are looking for efficiencies of 1 to 3%. If you're a startup, you're looking for efficiencies of 30%, right? So that's the difference. That's a sort of different lens on how could happen in a large corporate and what impact could it have. I think it takes longer. Run an X project would be my advice. Keep it away from the accountant and don't have it risk the business, right? And if it works, bring it in the business, deploy it, put it on the books, increase the efficiency, decrease your operational expenditure. Like I just see that around every corner right now. So that would be my take on that. How can AI personalize learning paths in real time to push completion rates higher? Yeah, I'm actually working with that tech now, and we're having some pretty significant wins. I can't talk too much about it. There's some IP in that I can't really talk about, but it can have huge benefits for your customers and your clients and your students and all that sort of stuff. It's incredible. We'll put it this way. Let me do a comparison. Say right now, 2020, let's say 2024, the education pathway in the vet sector is quite traditional. It's enrollment, get started, it's online, it's in classroom, it's done via webinar, right? That's it. That's all you've got. The course content, very generic, poorly written, and it's quite clunky, the way that it's delivered, right? So it's not delivered using an AI stack right now. I think we'll probably be the first company to do that in Australia. Well, I don't think we will be. We're very focused on that. So the journey for the student has been the same for the last 10 to 15 years. And it wasn't that dissimilar from the last 20 to 25 years. And that wasn't dissimilar from the last 50 years, right? So the innovation across that space, especially in the vet sector, has been very minimal. It hasn't been great leaps, it's been very small steps. Now, everything changes. I personally think everything changes. And I think education is going to be one of those markets that are going to be disrupted the most, right? And I'm starting to see it now. So if you consider that old way of doing things and you put a new lens on it, my take on it would be, how can we deliver a service to a student that's so efficient and seamless, they've never seen anything like it before? That's what we're building right now. And what that means is tailored journeys for learners, building profiles for learners. Will there be gamification? Yeah, look, gamification is quite an old school term. It's been around for a long time. This is gamification on the next level, where your learning materials and content engages with you personally, and it tailors the learning to how you learn, right? How you retain information, how you think, how you see things, what your previous education was, what current qualifications do you have, and what experience do you have? What's your career look like? It can actually analyze that, and it can tailor the delivery to you. Now imagine that. I don't know if you got that, but that's a game changer. We're building that now, and we're building the architecture for it. But nothing like that has been done yet. So we're hoping to be the first. But that's what it can do. When you think about how can it change the learning path for a customer or a large corporate client, it's not only going to change it. This is a complete paradigm shift from what we're doing now. It just is. Now that said, what I said previously was it will take time because it's going to require people to change, right? Their interpretation of what education looks like will have to change. But I think that's going to happen very fast from a consumer perspective, take a little bit longer from a commercial or corporate perspective. That would be my take. So where do you see AI evolving in the future of education? Look, I think the way of the classroom, the 3-year degree is over. It just hasn't happened yet, but I think it's over because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Going to university, for 3 years to do just an entry-level, low-level degree, or doing 4 or 5 years to do a master's degree, and you leave that degree with a piece of paper, and you don't really know much about anything. Like, some of the theory, but how could you possibly retain all the learnings across a 5-year period and know how to deploy those into a market? Logically, the answer is not much. Right? So these are old business models that generate a lot of revenue and income, and they're run as businesses, right? I think AI is going to change all that, because what it's going to do, it's going to shine a spotlight on how inefficient they are. And I'm also going to talk about high schools, because I think high schools are a bit of a joke right now. The way that we educate our children has to change, because we're doing it the wrong way. We got a solid curriculum was written probably 75 years ago that hasn't really been updated, that was written in a different time, in a different era, and the lens on the world and how things worked were different. This is why we spend more time teaching kids about history, because that's really all that curriculum is aware of. It doesn't know anything about the future. So, I know kids that leave high school and don't even know how to write a budget or find a job or buy a house, or they don't even know what a lawyer is, let alone plugging in and using the washing machine, right? Like, it's a bit of a joke, and it's been a joke for a long time. State schools are operated by the state, which are overseen by the federal government, and then you have private schools, and the model is exactly the same. The only thing is, in a private school, they get to pay their teachers more, so they get better quality, and they get to recruit the best of the best out of that market. That's how the market works. It's been that way for 100 years. Hasn't changed. This is going to change it. It's going to change all of it. I truly believe that. So I think it's super exciting, and the future of education is evolving, and it's evolving rapidly, exponentially even. And I think those old models like high schools and universities and the current vet sector, that needs a bit of a wake-up call, and I think this is it. So I'm super pumped about it. Some people will disagree with me. I have conversations about this, and that's fine, no harm, no foul. Anyone can disagree with me, but we're going to do it anyway, because all the data, the most successful companies on the planet, and the global investment, is telling all of us that it's time to change. So I say embrace it. Okay, so those are the top 8 questions. I hope that helps. There's a lot going on in that AI space. I'm going to talk about that more. I spend a lot of time in that space, researching, using the technology, and we do so a lot in our company as well, just sitting around, chewing the fat and playing around with tech and seeing what it can do. Every day we do that. So we're all pretty excited as a company and as a culture to get involved in it. So I hope that helps. Thanks for sending through the questions, and look forward to speaking to you next time. That's it.